troop to do shoo away because this probe does give it vision, so he knows it's coming. And it's a lot of just macroing up right now. Both players, on top of their macro, they have very little mineral. Okay, White Rod's got a little bit of mineral and gas, but he might be building something special soon enough. Actually, just lost it all right there. He just had another warp in. So yeah, both players on top of their macro, and we should see an epic engagement soon.
Very, very soon. This has been a slower game than normal. Usually pro games have a constant aggression or something going on. It's been a slower game from White Raw, and we're used to his aggression all the time.
Yeah, so it does look like both armies are just building up their armed forces, and recruitment's at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, exactly, and their armies are basically exactly the same for mineral and gas counts right now. So
you look at the units tab, we got more exact specifications. So 4 Colossus each, 7 to 5 Stalkers, 8 to 7 Zealots, and yeah, White Raw's army is slightly bigger, it looks like.
Yeah, Mouse Mana actually has that single Immortal, so that Immortal will help taking down the Colossus because they are large armored units. But one Immortal isn't going to do much.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see a Mothership actually.
A Mothership. Yeah, let's just go to Mothership now. Mothership would be pretty awesome because it's cloaking your whole army right here, and the other army can't do anything without an obs in the air. That'd be frightening.
You need a lot more Stalkers to deal with the Mothership. I don't know. I just want to see a Mothership. I haven't seen one yet.
In a pro game, properly used.
Yeah, so it does look like White Rod's ob is out. He does dispose of Mouse Mana's ob, and he will go in and finally get some scouting information since he's been sitting in the dark for such a long time. But he has seen his army composition as we do our first engagement finally.
Finally, man, that was a long time. Alright, so we got the Colossus basically just burning away any of the light units, which are the Zealots, just being destroyed right now, decimated by the Colossus.
Yeah, it does look like White Rod's Colossus army is much larger than Mouse Mana's Colossus army, and he's taking the hit because of it. These Colossus are like, the main contributors to the battle, and having more Colossus will win you the battle. That Mortal didn't stand a chance with that much Colossus fire, and that Sentry underneath, wow, what the hell, he just should have shot his own Colossus, look like. But it does look like White Raw has taken a firm grasp of the army advantage and is pushing out with showing some some nice micro, pulling back his weakened Colossus to keep it alive for just that much longer. He really needs to take care of this enemy Colossus, and he is trying to target fire it down. Once that Colossus is gone, these Stalkers can go to work on this other one. That's another one.
The Colossus spawns in, so Mouse Mana actually survives this attack, doesn't take a hit to his economy at all, and both teams actually lost basically their whole army, so they're starting once again on the same level for army size.
Yeah, it does look like it was a stalemate in a PvP style fashion army battle. Looks like the unit lost. White Raw took 500 less minerals, but really this midway in the game, those minerals don't really mean too much, and looks like they are both trying to get their army back up to its former glory.
Yeah, exactly. Still pumping out tons of Colossus, and White Raw pumping out a ton of Zealots. I think Mouse Mana also pumping out Zealots. Yeah, exactly. So just going for another big attack right now.
And here comes the war. These Stalkers, I'm sorry, these Zealots slightly out of position, standing underneath the Colossus. You really want to keep them in front, so then the splash damage from the enemy Colossus doesn't splash the Zealots on the Colossus, as these Zealots are coming up and getting in the face of these Colossus, punching away at the legs, chopping them down slowly.
Just taking them down. There goes the great oak that is the Colossus.
And the Colossus is met up with his other Colossus buddy and will shoo away this one Zealot because he doesn't want to mess with the 2 giant walkers.
Yeah, frightening sight. If you were a Zealot and seeing one of those things walking your way, you'd be scared.
Yeah, actually we haven't seen any upgrades or any kind of tech research besides, Thermal Lance upgrade. I would like to see, like, some Zealot charge, help them get in the face of those Colossus faster. Maybe even blink if you want to go mass Stalkers. Just blink your Stalkers closer to the Colossus and just snipe them down. But right now, no upgrades, all at 0-0-0, both teams, I think. Please don't prove me wrong. And yep, 0-0-0.
Wow, this is a very different style of play. Like most of the time, pro players, I know they go for the upgrades. They want the upgrades, so they have the advantage over the other player. Because right now, unless if White Raw or the Mouse Mana knows that the other player hasn't put up any upgrades and he isn't behind technically.
So Mouse Mana is doing a ballsy move and putting up an expansion, kind of a little hidden, a little bit far. Oh, they're all far now because all the other expansions have been taken. But that expansion, if it doesn't get scouted, it will give him a good advantage. But if it is, he can lose that expansion very easily with his army out of position defending his main home.
Exactly. Mouse Mana just basically bolstering up some more forces in his own base, and is that White Raw's probe? Yeah, White Raw's probe coming in to look around.
So he knows exactly what's going on. He does catch a glimpse of this Nexus finishing, and that's the worst time for White Raw to for Mouse Mana to know that his Nexus got scouted as it was just finishing, so he can't cancel it anymore. As he's scouting, these transferring probes are very, very ballsy.
Just walking through those Colossus legs.
Fiery lance of death firing around them. We'll go through. We only died by 2 shots, so
whatever, we're cool. Two Colossus versus two Colossus and two Stalkers. They go down, and White Raw's still pumping out tons more Colossus, but right into the thick of battle, not the best place, sending in one Colossus at a time.
Yeah, these Stalkers will, bolster this army, and they do good damage against this Colossus. This Colossus barely made it out with his life.
Actually, White Raw, what he did in that base was throw down a pylon and just started warping in units, and that's a pretty ballsy move from White Raw, but he wants to take this expansion down completely.
Yeah, Mouse Mana did not put, yes, he does have his pylon down now, and he started spawning some of his own units.
Yeah.
But he did have to send his units to defend. But as he did that, White Raw does send in his Colossus and is just destroying the mineral line as these probes are clumped together in the back, which isn't going to help them because the splash damage from those thermal lances are just going to work on them.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, having Mouse Mana go and defend his expansion just basically put all his units out of position, and White Raw got to come in with 3 Colossus and completely decimate this.
Yeah, putting down the expansion back there and having it scouted is, just a horrible time for that thing to be, to be seen, because now you're just, you're trying to defend your expansion and you got to defend your home, so you got to take a hit one way or another. And it does look like White Raw has taken both sides down. He destroyed every probe up there, went to town on these ones. There's a few left, but really he's just taking a dominant position right now. Look at the income tab. He's down to 13 harvesters, only 80 minerals per minute or whatever that rate is. And it does look like Mouse Mana is trying to desperately send his army in and just return the favor, try to do as much damage as he can, because White Raw's army has been decimated from both fronts, and he's just trying to get his army back up. These Stalkers need to get up and start taking out these Colossus so these Colossus can take out the probes. They're fighting the wrong enemy right now.
Yeah, and basically because White Raw is pumping out tons of Colossus just keep coming out. They're like...
Yeah, it's one after another. Pop out. There's like an infinite line, assembly line of Colossus, these giant war machines from the Protoss army, and he does defend that attack, and it doesn't look like Mouse can do much now with his, mineral line decimated. He's got, what was it, 13 harvesters, his army's gone. It does look like White Raw will cruise to victory now.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of depressing for Mouse Mana, because he did play a pretty solid game, having his army matching White Raw's army every time, and whenever there was any kind of battle, they both lost the exact same amount of units, and there was never a player that came out ahead. But once that one expansion went down for poor Mouse Mana, there was nothing that Mouse Mana could do, and he's gonna lose this game right here.
Yeah, he stretched his army a little bit too thin. He sent everything he had to defend his expansion, thinking a lot more would go up that way, but looked like, White Raw has a few more tricks in his hat, and, sends a small force up there, warps in with that, proxy pylon, abusing that proxy pylon tech, and sends his Colossus and just destroyed everything here.
Yeah, good play by, good game by White Raw right here, and so that's the game 3, I guess, out of our big White Raw extravaganza. We'll see you guys next time.
Yep, see ya.